Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast. I'm your host, Amy Zabel, and we're here to bring content and community to the amateur halter exhibitor.
I am excited to introduce to you Corina Holman. She comes from a long line of horse trainers. She's a certified professional horseman with APHA and an APHA ambassador. She believes that every discipline has something to teach us in being a better horseman. She's a lifelong learner and appreciates a challenge. Even though her passion is versatility ranch horses, she has experience in everything from dressage to roping to halter and everything in between. Her career began with starting horses under saddle, and now she enjoys supporting her husband in their halter horse business, as well as her own business, Timarr Performance Horses, and competing at the world level in ranch. Hey, Corina, thanks for being with us.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Of course.
So we are jumping into a subject that I think is has a certain level of curiosity for all of us halter horse folks, and that is breaking our halter horses to ride. So giving them a second job or maybe a brand new job as we transition them out of the halter showing. So that's what we're going to learn about today. Can you just start by telling us about your horse journey?
Absolutely. I come from a long line of horse trainers. My grandma trained horses. My mother trained horses. I actually come from an Arabian background. So I got started into horses when I was 12, 13 years old. And it all started with 2 Arabian mares that my mom bought from the local auction. And she said, if you want to do this, we're going to do it together. They were not started under saddle. So she proceeded to throw her 13-year-old daughter onto these feisty Arabian mares' backs, and off we went. So I've done a little bit of everything, from English to Western. I actually ended up buying my first halter horse as a 4-H project, and I ended up winning the Montgomery County Fair, which kind of catapulted me into the curiosity of the stock horse. And so being my family being from the West Coast, always having Arabians, coming to Texas, we had to get a quarter horse. So I ended up showing that little halter filly and getting a few more stock horses along the way. And I've just loved the breed. I love the versatility of the breed. I really do like the ranch horse and the versatility ranch horse. I've gotten a lot more into the cow over the last couple of years with some really great guidance from some close friends of mine. But man, it's been a journey and it's been a lot of fun.
So you mentioned a little bit about halter horses, that you have some experience there. Tell us a little bit about your experience with halter horses.
So my first fair colt project was a little Awesome Andy filly that I purchased with some help. And we ended up going to Kenny Hall for some lessons. And he helped me get that horse ready to show, along with a really close friend of mine, Garrett Skinner. And I ended up showing that filly at the Montgomery County Fair, and did very, very well with her. And then above and beyond that, I've gotten lots of experience from halter horses over the years. The very first horse that I actually ever won a check on was a 4-year-old Mr. Elusive mare. Her name was RG Emotions, and I took her to a futurity, and I'm sure we were the only ranch horse there. I mean, the only halter horse in the ranch horse class. And we ended up pulling a check from that show, and that actually spurred my curiosity into the ranch horse world. But every halter horse that I have, really had the pleasure of working with has been so much fun, and they're even so much more fun to ride.
You mentioned that showing that halter horse sparked your interest in ranch. So tell us a little bit more about your ranch journey.
So that mare, I started under saddle. And I was showing her in halter, but being in the aged mare class, we weren't as competitive as I thought we needed to be in the halter. So I decided to ride her so we could show in the performance halter class. And the best suited class for her was the ranch class. She had a beautiful extended trot. She had a really good head on her shoulders. So I ended up showing her in the ranch horse stuff. So, snowballing off of that, I started to rope off of her. I started to work cows off of her. And that's when I was like, well, what could I do with a ranch bred horse? So she's kind of the one that got me into going into more of the, cow working to kind of see what I could do with a horse that was necessarily bred for that. But she took me a long ways into that journey.
Mm. You've mentioned quite a bit about breaking horses to ride. So what's the most rewarding part of that?
So from a trainer standpoint, I think the crazy 2-year-old that you've unloaded off the trailer that has drugged me to the round pen, to you coming and picking up and saying, oh my gosh, I never thought my horse would be this cooperative, this sound-minded, this, easy to be around and manageable. I think the most rewarding aspect, from the trainer standpoint is just the owner's real true appreciation of what I've made the horse into. From an owner standpoint, because yes, I still do own a horse or two. Starting my own horse is just seeing the growth and development. My favorite thing is seeing where in particular that horse excels, because some horses have a beautiful extended trot and you don't even have to work for it. Some horses have an amazing stop and you don't even have to work for it. I think the most fun for me is being able to see where each horse just succeeds naturally and I barely have to help them there.
Love it. It's fun to have some insight on what you do, not only what you do, but what it feels like to be on kind of your side of the picture. So we want to cover this idea of having a halter horse and breaking it to ride. I observe some conversations on social media where there's potentially confusion, I guess. Folks who are not halter people who think that, our horses aren't able to ride, or that's just never a part of their career or their future. So if I'm thinking that I want this to happen with my own horse, what are the benefits of breaking a horse that's got a, pretty heavy show schedule? What are the benefits of breaking it to ride?
I would say the benefits of breaking a halter horse to ride are you get them out of the daily grind of the regimen that we as halter trainers and fitters and showers get these horses into. So every day you get them out and you do the same thing every day, and they get bored. That's when you have the horse that wants to start getting a little mouthy or a little sassy or a little pushy. Everything in Holman halter horses gets started under saddle. If they have good legs and good bone and they can handle being ridden, we ride them. It's absolutely not a question. So I'm a huge proponent of starting halter horses under saddle. So is Joe. It's good for them mentally. It gives them a job. It lets them see a whole nother side. Sometimes they really appreciate just being a halter horse after that. I've had the sassiest halter horses on the ground be the best riding horses under saddle. It really just helps kind of mold and shape that personality and helping them to give them a job. I mean, yes, being a halter horse is definitely a full-time job, but also doing something out from the daily grind and the schedule. I personally think it's freeing for them mentally.
It's good to know. So if I have a busy show schedule and I look at my calendar and I think I'm going to be showing from spring through fall, right, is there a better time throughout the year to consider doing that? Or what's the ideal time for that to happen?
Yeah. So what we usually do here is after their last show of the season, because usually we have some horses that, they're done showing in September. Some horses they're done showing in November. If that's the case, if you're going to show heavy through November, like a lot of these horses sometimes do, as soon as they get home, what we've done is these horses, before I ever ride them, have all been ponied off the mule or golf cart with a saddle. They all know how to hold a bit in their mouth. So this isn't something we're just slapping the saddle and bridle on and kicking them around in the round pen and jumping on their back. This is, as Joe is fitting these horses and getting them ready for the halter pen, they know how to wear a saddle. They know how to hold a bit in their mouth. They know how to do those basic things. So by the time their last show comes in November, we come home, we do, a week or two of solid groundwork, and we're on their backs. I find that halter horses are the easiest to start under saddle. They think it's so much fun. I have never experienced a halter horse just being rank like you see these videos on YouTube or Facebook of the horse that takes off bucking across the arena. I mean, I've never personally experienced that. I think it's because we are so hands-on with these guys. They're like, oh, we're just another day at the office. We're just going out to work. And, I think they really do enjoy it.
It just makes me smile to think about giving them another job, knowing that they are handled quite a bit, but giving them something else to think about. So you mentioned that they would already be familiar with saddling and a bit and a variety of aspects that would naturally happen as you're breaking them to ride. So if I plan on sending my horse to somebody to get broke at the end of the season, what kinds of things can I do during my show season to help prepare and make it easier come fall?
So I know there's two sides to the coin, right? So there is the owner that's done too much, and then I get the horse and I have a lot of problems to undo. And then there is the owner that is knowledgeable and, knows how to safely introduce a saddle and, get a horse comfortable with a bit. In that instance, I would say get your horse comfortable with carrying the saddle around, with lunging with the saddle on its back, with ponying with the saddle on its back. You can put a halter either under or over a bit with a snaffle on it and work them in a manner where they can learn how to hold the bit. It is not uncommon for me when I have a baby to put a safe bridle on their head that they can't scratch off or rub off, and allow them to wear it in the stall with supervision and allow them to really understand how to hold a bit and manage those things. So there are things that you can do as an owner if you are experienced in being able to introduce it in a proper manner. We never want anything to be a bad experience, when introducing stuff to these babies, I would say. And to that point, we don't start these halter horses when they're 2. Usually, if they're really good legged and, ready for their next career and they're done being halter horses, I might ride them for a little bit their 2-year-old year, but most of our horses are showing their 2-year-old year. And we really like these halter horses to grow. We want them to be mentally mature and physically mature. So a lot of our halter horses really don't get started until their 3-year-old year, just because we want to just be extra careful. We want to make sure that they're ready for it physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What age? So end of 2-year-old year or end of that show season, but primarily in the 3s. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I am notorious for saddling up a halter horse at the Pinto World and taking him to one of the round pens in the back of the in the back of the warm-up pen. And I have started horses there under saddle. But it's usually the end of their 2-year-old year, the beginning of their 3-year-old year.
It might confuse people after seeing somebody in the show ring showing at halter and then out and under saddle. I love it.
Yeah, yes. My husband said, okay, that's his last show. You can ride him now. And I threw the saddle on his back and walked him to the round pen and put his first ride on him at the Pinto World.
That's awesome. I love it.
It was fun.
Strike while the iron's hot, right?
Yes.
So then, what kind of customization do you do for each horse? Like, do you alter your training program or process? And if so, what does that look like?
Absolutely. So every horse is different. Just like people, they all have different personalities. I have a tendency to lean more towards like the natural horsemanship style of training. So if I have a horse that's super, on edge, high strung, nervous, responsive, reactive, I have a tendency to do more desensitizing activities with them. Everything is going to have the sensitizing activities, which are lunging, round pen, moving their feet. So sensitizing is move your feet when I apply pressure. Desensitizing is don't move your feet when I apply pressure. So, shaking the plastic bag or a trash can or just throwing the lead rope all over them and then having to be calm and use the thinking side of their brain and not so reactive and responsive. We want these horses to know that we need to train them to use the thinking side of their brain rather than the reactive side of their brain. So with the more high strung horses, I spend more on the desensitizing. With these lazier horses that don't care to work, don't care, they would rather just sit in their stall and eat and not have to, burn the excess calories. I do a little bit more sensitizing. I do a little bit more, hey, let's move your feet. Let's get there. And when I ask you to go, we need to get there quick. Now, that being said, since every horse is a little different, you'll kind of just tailor your program to, more sensitizing or more desensitizing, just depending on the horse. They'll both get both activities, but some you'll do twice as much as one of the other.
How do you recommend a person maybe experiment with some of those things if they don't have a round pen?
It's definitely easier if you have just a small area, even if it's just in the pasture, just something to where, hey, if we let go of this lead rope, what's going to happen to this horse? So I would say just teaching the horse how to lunge on a lunge line in a safe and controlled environment is ideal. And then if you have an area where if something were to happen, you could still get the horse, that's awesome. But, most of everything that I do can be done on the end of a long, line or lunge line. I think you don't have to have a round pen to do a lot of these things. Does it make it a little bit easier? Yes. But your horse should be manageable and you should be able to move his feet on the end of a lunge line.
Mm-hmm. In your experience, are the halter horses particularly good at one discipline or the other?
So really, I think that the ranch horse division is an extremely suitable division for these guys to go in because it's kind of like a melting pot of all these horses. You see these, cow horses that don't make the cow stuff come into the ranch. You see these Western pleasure horses that are too forward or have too much action or, they come into the ranch horse division. So I think it's kind of like a melting pot of these horses that have kind of been maybe, not so successful in the other areas to come and try this and see if they're good at it. That being said, I know Casual Mister won a world title in Western Pleasure, just like he did Halter. Execute. He's got titles in heading. So, these horses, they're good in so many things. I think it's most easy to push them into the ranch, whether that's roping or, the ranch horse show world or, I think that's just kind of where I have been drawn, and my horses have been pretty successful in that area.
Mm-hmm. Something just came to mind. I hear people say sometimes that they will pull weight off of their halter horse and start riding. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I don't, to be very careful with that, I think if your horse is harder, like if they're not going to stay good legged, heavier, it's obviously going to get even harder for them to stay good-legged, heavy, and riding. So I've never necessarily had to pull weight off of a horse to ride it. I have had a horse lose weight because I am riding it. So I think for me, that almost just comes naturally with, hey, we have a much harder job, burning a lot more calories, a lot, if I'm riding this horse 4, 5, 6 days a week, naturally he's going to be thinner and slimmer. His muscle is going to go from a bulkier muscle to more of a lean style muscle. So I've never had to pull weight off to ride one. I would say maybe that's just, my horse is not so good legged when he's a little heavier. So in order for me to maintain his soundness while starting under saddle, maybe that's something someone would say. But I think losing that weight just comes naturally with the extra job.
Okay. What about the horse that doesn't have a very well-defined set of withers? How do you suggest keeping a saddle on that horse?
I say good luck, my friend. No. It is a challenge. It definitely is. Find you a good breast collar. I mean, that's just part of it. With these guys that are a little bit more mutton withered, it's not uncommon. I mean, we have the same problems with the reiners. I mean, you find a saddle that fits as best as it can, and the breast collar really helps from those saddles sliding back too far.
Okay. You mentioned saddle fitting. Is there a particular saddle or size or type that you have found fits them the best?
Well, full quarter horse bars. I've actually had to get a couple extra wide sets of saddles, gullets and bars to be able to fit these guys. But I would just say, just make sure you are knowledgeable or have a knowledgeable person to help you take a look at your saddle. I am not pro every single horse has to get a custom $7,000 saddle made for its back. I think that we're not going and working on a ranch for 12 hours straight. You can get something that fits your horse to the best of your ability, get a good saddle pad. Just make sure that you're trying to do the best you can. Definitely with these halter horses, I'm finding the wider gullets, the better the fit.
Okay. So, does it help or hinder my horse to have two jobs, showing and riding?
So I am a true believer of a good horse is a good horse. So if you want to continue to show your horse and you want to ride your horse, I don't think it's going to hinder your placings. I mean, you may have to up the calorie intake. You may have to up more of the quality forage that the horse is getting to be able to balance the calories that's being burned. But at the end of the day, is your horse that you're gunning to go win the quarter world going to be in a 5 or 6 day riding regimen? Probably not. Do I think it's going to hurt to ride the horse every now and then? Absolutely not. I don't think that it's going to have a true physical effect. Now, some people do say that, the saddle can sweat away the top line or things like that. I know trainers who actually saddle their halter horses and they never ride them just because they want to sweat down the wither or make the wither more pronounced and sweat around it. So I think that, every horse is different. It's going to be a little bit different. If your riding regimen is stressing your horse out and causing him to lose weight and it's really putting him in a bad place, I would say, hey, probably let's not give that horse a full-time riding career until you're okay with not placing as high as you're used to in the halter. But at the end of the day, if your horse is taking it well, you're keeping up with his calorie intake and trying to help him, maintain what is a good normal for you guys. I don't see a problem with it. I really don't.
That was something that I wanted to hear more about was, does the riding in conjunction with showing at halter, does the riding part of that change the horse's body too much? And you've touched on that a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe what to look for or how quickly I would see transformation in my horse's body if I started riding and while I'm in the midst of my show season.
Right. So I've had two sides to that coin. I've had the horse that the more I ride him, the better he looks. The better muscle definition he has, the better physique he has. To me, the better he looks. And then you have other people who say, oh, well, and sweats his top line. It makes his hocks go bad. It all these things. So, that's just, you're going to have to know your horse and keep an eye on him. I mean, we have such a close eye on these horses. I'll walk in the barn one day and Joe will say, oh, we got to bump that horse's feet up, or, oh, he's getting too fat. We need to take him back a little bit, or bump his workout up, or, for us, things change daily around here on what we see. So just keeping in tune with your horse. If we're trying to win the quarter world, I am not going to be on this horse's back 6 days a week for an hour a day. It's not going to be the goal. So just having that mindset of, hey, if you're good with, maintaining, what you have and starting your horse under saddle, and, I think it's not going to make that big of a difference on the, local weekend. We're just going to go and do the best we can. But on a world show level, I mean, I would say you're probably going to have some differences that probably aren't going to be worth it if you're shooting for the highest placing in the halter class. Do I think it's going to be detrimental? No, but may it affect it? Possibly.
Yeah, that's good to know. If I want to transition from showing at halter to ranch, for example, how will I know what classes my horse will excel at?
So movement is the first thing that I look at in these halter horses when I decide kind of what way to push them. So my job as a trainer is to look at your horse and really figure out where that horse is going to excel. Obviously, these guys that have had a successful halter career, that's what they're very good at. We want to try to find something else that they can do. The ranch is a really, really nice way to go. If they have a great extended trot, if they hold, their lope nicely, I think that's really, that's a good avenue to go. I don't think you're really going to have a clear direction without some outside input from a professional as to what direction we should go. But I say show your horse. Take it to a weekend show. And when you walk out of that class, you will know if this is what my horse is going to be successful at or not. I'm a proponent of showing your horse. You're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to see your horse's strengths and weaknesses. Go to a ranch show. If he's not cutting it there, then, try something else with him. Just always take a video, send it to your girlfriend, say, hey, how do you think my horse looks? Listen to some input, but at the end of the day, find what your horse wants to do. If he wants to go a little bit faster and he doesn't want to slow down for the pleasure, then the ranch might be the avenue for him.
Mm-hmm. How do you know what your horse likes to do?
Well, when I feel like I'm always ending on a good note and I'm not taking a fight every single day and pushing my horse for these things, I am not going to take a halter horse out and ask him to do a full-blown reining pattern and just expect for us to kill it. If I'm constantly pushing that horse through a spin or having to pull him into the ground to get those stops, I want to see, what is this horse naturally good at? Is he naturally good at this extended trot? Is he naturally good at wanting to go slow and he just wants to lope slow and he wants to jog slow if he wants to be slow? Kind of listen to your horse. See what does he do that I have to put very little effort into helping him at? I know a lot of horses that halter horses that go on to rope and they love their job. They love getting in the box. They love tracking the steer. I know halter horses that love to barrel race. They like to go fast. They're good at their turns, things like that. Just try to explore with your horse and listen to your horse. Whatever he does the best by himself without your help, and you have to push him very little to be successful at, I would say that's what he likes to do.
That's perfect. I hope to help find my horse his second career someday. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I just say, like I said before, don't be afraid to show your horse. Get out in the show pen. It's so much fun. I think that once you find a group of people that you enjoy being around, it is so much more fun. Don't be afraid to talk to people at horse shows. My very favorite thing is when people come up to me and go, "Oh, I saw you, riding your horse around doing this too. Is this something that you can help me with? If that's something I can help them with at the horse show, absolutely. We're all there to help. We want everyone to be successful. My rule is if I helped you and you beat me, I must have done a really good job. So we want everyone to be successful. And you know what? Sometimes it's your day and sometimes it's not. And sometimes you win when you should have lost and you lose when you should have won. And we can feel all kinds of ways, but just keep showing up. It's going to turn around and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing this with us. I hope it encourages some folks to find a second career for their halter horse at some point. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, if you're an amateur or a professional willing to share your story or bring content that helps us with our halter horses, you can email me at fitforhalter@gmail.com.